Acting Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani is a man who perhaps more than any other of his cabinet colleagues is in the public eye. He's in charge of Kenya's economy at a time when it is doing badly and projections show that growth will slow down in this financial year. He has been in the docket less than 5 months now, and despite the government's brave face, it is clear that President Kenyatta's legacy Big Four agenda is under threat due to the state of the economy. Yatani is also the Labour Cabinet Secretary and the only CS tasked with 2 ministries. Faisal Ahmed joined the minister in Forole, that's in North Horr sub-county, to find out how the former Marsabit Governor is now managing to run 2 key dockets in government.
That is Treasury Acting Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani here in his natural setting in Forole, a few meters off the Kenya-Ethiopia border. Now what we're going to do is get to know the man and also ask him questions about the country's economy and also the status of employment as he is the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Labour. Let's get to know the man a little better.
Ukur Yatani Camacho, a man known to many as the country's finance and labor CS. But here, he's the son of the land just like any other.
On our immediate right, the Ethiopian border is less than 5 kilometers from here.
Yatani credits the early Catholic missions who came to Marsabit in the mid-19th century for his education. He was raised in these grass-thatched huts, where he sometimes had to walk for 2 days during the holidays after school from the nearest town to Forole, Maikona, which is about 80 kilometers away.
I was born here, I grew up here, but I had an opportunity to go to school. Some of my family members were keen to take me to school, and through the assistance of the early Catholic missionaries, I was privileged to go to school, and God has been grateful. God has been really, good to me. I sustained that trajectory of academic growth that offered me an opportunity to now serve at the level I'm serving.
To many here, between the unfavorable weather conditions and the nomadic lifestyle, education has never been a priority. But Yatani says if given the opportunity, they could do remarkably well.
This environment, considered very harsh by the standard of most Kenyans, has shaped me. And it's something that I want anyone from this region to continue aspiring. It helps you to be humble. It helps you to be focused. It helps you to be resilient, even the extreme of circumstance.
He is, however, thankful for the lifestyle he was brought up in, and he says it made him the man that he is, shaped his character. After landing in Forole, the Cabinet Secretary, who is a Gabra elder, quickly changed his attire to the traditional clothing, that of an elder. The arrest and prosecution of former Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich saw Yatani unexpectedly announced as the Treasury Minister in acting capacity. And his first order of business was to keep the government lean, disciplined and on budget.
What we've done as government is to make sure that the government lives within its means, that the government is lean. The government spends money only on things that we must, things that will add value to the bigger economic spectrum. That's why we carried out tough austerity measures by cutting down on foreign trips, by cutting down on cost that can actually be money. You know, you don't really need to be an accountant or a finance officer. Treasury needs more than anything else an economist. I studied economics, and I also dealt at my postgraduate level with the public policies. And through this, and by also my diverse career as a diplomat, as an administrator, politician. I've also been a governor. So I am happy that all those exposures prepared me for any position of management. The map is very clear. I want to sustain it and make sure it works. It works for the good of this country. That discipline must be reigned at all times. As long as we have also technical people who are very useful, The idea is just to have that collective thought and charting a path and making sure that we sustain over time, but also pooling and getting support of not only national individuals, but also we work very well with the international bodies, financial institutions.
Yatani says the austerity measures that he effected will put an end to the government's frivolous spending.
I really don't think that is a problem, because the proposal that I undertake is always backed by a decision of cabinet under the leadership of our own president. So I'm just enforcing a decision of our government. We've realized that it's in our interest as a country that we live within acceptable means. The days when, Kenya sends delegations of whatever numbers, 60, 70, even sometimes more, is a thing of the past. Why? A job that can be done by as few as 5 people. Who finances, who supports those the big delegations? Are those not taxpayers? Can these be converted into service to make sure that the health centers, water, roads are functional? So
the measures he put in place in an attempt to cure the ailing economy have costed him friends, but he insists he will not relent.
Well, the idea is that, of course, not everybody is happy. I know quite a number of friends we work with or we had worked with elsewhere as a governor. They are not happy, but do I have a choice? I have a duty to make sure that what is in the interest of the public, and the assignment that have been given by the president, which is totally in the interest of the common man, is implemented. Making sure that pending bills are paid, because we don't have a choice. Why do you have to procure services and somebody has borrowed from banks? Another committing suicide, losing business, declared bankrupt, unable to take their children to school, unable even get better Medicare, just because some government somewhere is sitting on their money.
He admits that there are operational inefficiencies at KRA that saw tax leaks and subsequently reduced revenues last year compared to this year. He also blames the judiciary for ruling against KRA every time the taxman seeks to impose new taxes to raise revenues.
And then there are also a number of tax policy measures that had challenges. You say you are going to impose this tax, but then our judiciary also, either delays it, either they rule otherwise. So then the situation becomes difficult. But there are also operational inefficiencies within KRA. Maybe a bit of leakage, a bit of management issue. But I'm happy that at the moment, we've streamlined quite a number of these things, including the team getting focused and building synergy among themselves and remaining on target and making sure that, when you fail to perform, then, there are consequences. The government must be oiled through enhancement of revenues. Good policies, good tax measures that will generate enough revenue so that you have the pool of the basket can grow to achieve more. And we have, within the last 3 months, we've done so much, and the revenue has been actually on the upward trend, contrary to what was happening last year. We've really achieved massive success, but we don't want to stop there, we want to sustain it. Another thing that we need to be careful about and handle within a very sustainable manner is the issue of debt. Because borrowing for capital goods is good, because those capital goods, including roads, other infrastructure like electricity, will have a positive economic multiplier effect. Because through power, you will enhance manufacturing. But we have to do it not on the exigency of, of the time, but we must project the future. Borrowing can be easy, but now in the long run, if not sustained and planned well, can actually put strain on the economy. So what we've done is that we made sure that, we are now working on a tail end or restructuring our debts, making sure that, we retire some of those expensive commercial loans and go concessional with a longer repayment period, very, low interest rates, plenty of grace period, so that do not put pressure on our fiscal space.
Despite the National Treasury taking the bulk of his time, Yatani says his labor docket is in capable hands.
So what we've done as government is to make sure that the government lives within its means, that the government is lean. The government spends money only on things that we must, things that will add value to the bigger economic spectrum. That's why we carried out tough austerity measures by cutting down on foreign trips, by cutting down on cost that can actually be managed.
On job creation, he says the work lies with the private sector, adding that the government can only do so much.
Because that the pressure we have is the pressure for employment. And jobs are not just created unless the economy is growing, unless we have, facilitative role for the private sector. The government can only employ, the government at the moment in the formal employment is only about 800,000 against a population of 47 million. So 800 is just a drop in the ocean.
He, however, refused to comment on his political career.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to discuss that at this stage, but I am full, my hands are full, focused. I have a bigger calling to make sure that, the position that I've been given, I'll do it to the satisfaction of my appointing authority and make sure that Kenya succeeds through my commitment. And a commitment that, I don't shy about it, I'll give it 100%.
After the interview, we settled down for the night, and to my surprise, we were sleeping in the open, including the cabinet secretary. At the crack of dawn, he was up to tend to the camels. The night here was particularly long due to the cold and mosquitoes, which made it almost impossible to sleep. Yatani credits these conditions that made him the person he is. Fazl Ahmed, Citizen TV, Forole, Marsabit County.